Alright, we're rebuilding the starter on this 1978 two-stroke lawn boy today with an F100 engine. I always like to start out by removing the spark plug because I know it won't start if there's no spark plug in it. After you remove the spark plug, go ahead and take out the 4 screws kind of north, south, east, and west on the outer shroud / cover with a Phillips head screwdriver. A lot of these have been replaced over the years, so you may have to go ahead and find a nut driver or something else. To get the starter handle out of the way, just tip it back and tuck it under the cover, pulling the cover up slightly. Remove the 2 terminals for the wires that go to the on-off switch to make sure that that can clear. Gingerly remove the fuel line and the primer line from the carburetor. Be careful, that thing's just plastic and it can disintegrate. Behold the starter mechanism. Here's the 1/4-inch screw that you're going to need to remove in order to get the starter assembly out of the mower. Now, please note that I forget the funky size that it said in the manual, but mine was a 1/4-inch Allen head bolt in there. So remove that bolt and the starter will come right out. There she blows. I'm going to go ahead and pull the ripcord out a little bit. That way I've got a little bit more freedom here. Not really a big deal, though. You can cut the cord and install a new one if you want. Not too huge of a deal. Here is the gear that goes ahead and starts the mower. And note the little arm on the outer die-cast case, but overall, pretty simple operation. Remove the E-clip with a screwdriver. I was kind of lazy and didn't get out a pair of needle nose or anything. Comes off pretty quickly. Then there is a washer behind that which holds that gear on. It says in the manual not to lubricate that at all, so keep that nice and dry. There's also a spring on that gear. It says in the manual to drop this on the floor to free it up. I thought that was a little bit ridiculous, and my shaft was a little bit boogered up there from being loose in the mower for a while. So I tried tapping with a screwdriver, but what I ended up really doing is hitting it with a hammer a little bit to finally get it all the way out. I couldn't just twist it off or anything. Be careful when that spring pops out of there. It is under quite a bit of tension if it's not broken. And as my father said to me when we were discussing this, there's been a lot of cuts and scrapes on account of those springs flying loose over the years. You can see where the spring is supposed to sit in there, in that little groove. And the outer die-cast cover just goes through there and holds it all together. There's a notch for the outer end of the spring, but that's about it. There's really not much to this thing. The hardest part by far is getting the spring wound around in there. Here's the old spring. Yep, it's broken. And we've got the new spring. It is intact, and it's got the centerpiece that fits into the notch of the plastic housing part of the assembly here. I could have gone into the garage and gotten out a pair of needle nose pliers and bent it a little bit, but this being some spring steel, they warn on the package and in the manual that it's somewhat brittle, so I wanted to try and form it by hand the best I could. This process, I'm not going to lie, it was ugly. I had a rough time getting it started, but I did get it started with few problems. In retrospect, I would go back and use those needle nose to bend it some and get it in there. It was relatively durable. The biggest problem for me was winding it. Oh my goodness. I'm going to tell you guys right now. I got it started, put that outer cover on, but as I turned and turned and turned and turned, it took quite a bit for me to hold the die-cast cover in my right hand with the plastic inner portion of the cover in my left hand, turning that inner portion, tightening the spring and tightening the spring, while simultaneously holding the loose part of the spring that's still out of the housing with my index finger and thumb. It was just a lot, and I was, you know what, much respect to guys who've gotten good at this. That is a real pain, but by 5-10 minutes of struggling, and I finally got it done. Here's what it should look like when you get it all together. That little last bit of spring fits in the notch, good to go. Assembly of the mechanism is just the exact opposite of the removal. Put the gear on, put the washer on, and put the E-clip on there. The one thing that I pointed out earlier, which you will have to make note of, is that little metal arm needs to line up with a certain part on the mower, as does the spring that is on, well, the spring clip that is on that gear. Okay, those both have to be lined up a certain way, which I'll show you in a moment. Directly next to the hole that the starter fits into is that little platform here, if you will. The spring on the gear, the little retainer spring on the gear, goes around that ledge. One leg on top, one leg on bottom. The metal arm on the outer part of the die-cast cover should point directly at that platform, if you will. With that in proper place, you can crank down the bolt that holds that starter assembly on and then get ready to tension up the rope. There's no way to get a good angle, but here's roughly what it should look like with that arm pointing in the right direction. That gives you the little tab at the top of the mechanism, and again the little spring clip on that gear back there. One leg is on top of the platform that arm points to, the other leg is below. Okay, for the final tightening of the rope, as you can see on mine, if the edge of the rope is above the top part, wrap it around one more time. If the edge of the rope where it's attaching to the pulley there is on the bottom part, wrap it around 2 times. Mine was touching on the top half of this, so I've only got to wheel it around here 1 time. You see it's a little bit difficult to get it started. Give it a little bit of assistance if you need to, like I'm doing here, but just wrap it around that one more time if it's on the top, tuck it behind that metal arm, and now you have the pulley properly tensioned. It's back on, properly tensioned, and the cover has been reinstalled. Will it work and start is the question. Well, of course it will. I wouldn't have put this in the video if it didn't. Alright, if you guys have any problems with your mower, you need any help with things, any questions, go ahead and post them up, guys. I would love to help you out. I love this mower. It's a pleasure to use it every single time I mow, and I'd love to help keep more of these things alive. Thanks a ton for watching, guys.